Hello. Okay, let's see if I can hear everybody. James, you able to hear you?
Yeah, I can hear me.
Okay.
Can you? Can I hear me?
I
Yeah, I can hear
no, I
Jim.
know
I can't.
Jim is fooling with me.
I can't hear what. What do you? I can't. Maybe. Oh, maybe I shouldn't whisper.
Maybe you shouldn't whisper. Yeah. Here, let me just go ahead and get us kind of popped up on here. I'm going to hide that. And here we are. Oh, we got about 5 minutes to start here. Let me get the chat stuff up. Okay. And we are live on Facebook and YouTube, and the audio
Woohoo!
sounded fine there. So I had that little intro music, so I'm always able to check first. Um, we're going to be covering photographing fireworks and lightning. And before we get started, I was going to let James kind of talk about a new feature we have on the FinerWorks site. So let me
Well,
go ahead
should you? Let's wait till
and get a
four.
few. Okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, if it'll be there also kind of on the recording. So if you're catching this on playback on YouTube or Facebook now, just go ahead and we're starting about 5 minutes in, and you can kind of skip over to the front of the video as it starts. But we've had a great new addition to the site, and we have this is first Thursday, which is actually coming before first Tuesday. So we'll have that next week. We'll have our on the 7th, our first Tuesday, which will be covering a new, also a new edition on our linked on our FinerWorks site, which is ArtZip. Let's see if I can pull that up really quick. Let's go down here. I'm still kind of getting used to to the StreamYard.
Yeah.
Let's see. I do
So
this.
ArtZip will be just as kind of a little bit of a background. It's something we've been working uh, working hard to implement for quite some time, and it allows people to actually scan their artwork with something like their phones, uh, uh, their iPhone or their Samsung phone, and create high quality uh, files uh, with the ArtZip app. And so you basically upload the photos that you take with the phone of the artwork. So if you're photographing an original piece, you basically are creating a high quality scan of that artwork. And it's really cool technology, and we've already had some of our users starting to use it. And Waddy Armstrong, who's a artist based here in San Antonio, just ironically, where we're also located, came up with this concept, and uh, and is responsible for the first rendition, which is now in beta and which we've linked to on our site. And it not only does it let you scan your artwork, but it also lets you transfer those scans as you see fit to FinerWorks so we can print them for you. And so next Tuesday, Wadi is going to take questions, introduce the program. We have a number of questions that we've received or that we've had that he's going to address as well. So does that pretty much cover art?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like I said, it's been a really interesting thing. I think we've had several people start to go over, and we're starting to get some people who are now, putting in some prints with us. So that's going to be interesting. So you can find it on our site by going up at the top and clicking on fulfillment, which will take you right here and scroll down and just click on Art Zip, learn more. And this link will take you to their beta site right now because they're still working on this, but it's in full functionality right now. So try it out, sign it up. You don't pay for anything until you're ready to download your image, which is about $25. So it's interesting to see this because it's going to make getting high quality digital images of your art in to people who may not have the access to a photographer who can shoot this or a large flatbed scanner. So this is
Yeah.
really going to help a lot of people out. So join us first Tuesday for this. We'll start about 6:30, and you can join us on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay. And then I guess the other thing that, since it's 4 o'clock now, I can officially announce it. The other thing that we've done really concerns those people that are utilizing Shopify to sell their prints and have us fulfill their artwork. For a few years now, we've had the ability for people to import their orders from Shopify and transfer those orders to FinerWorks. But it was kind of a tedious process to get for people to sync their products from within their virtual inventory to FinerWorks to automate, the parts of that fulfillment process. Now, with the latest update that we did to our Shopify import app, we now have it connected to people's virtual inventory. So they can actually create products in Shopify from within FinerWorks itself. And I think we lost Jim there.
I think so too.
Yeah. So while Jim works on getting reconnected, which I'm sure he's doing, I'll continue with this. Yeah, so it's going to be a big time saver. So you don't have to go create a product in Shopify and then a corresponding in FinerWorks or vice versa. You can just do it all in FinerWorks, and it will transfer the appropriate product code, or I'm sorry, SKU, to that Shopify item. Now, you still have to submit the orders manually. We don't just go and retrieve Shopify orders. We're looking at that as a possibility in the future, but there are some, there's some problems that people have indicated are associated with that, especially if they don't have their store configured correctly and they're having FinerWorks fulfill certain parts of an order and another company and other parts of an order. So, but we are going to look at that, and we are also going to look at implementing a product transfer connection with other platforms, Etsy, Wix, Squarespace, even WooCommerce. You can find a good WooCommerce developer to help us with that. So, and then
Your audio is going just a little out there, James.
Is it? Okay.
Just a little bit.
It's probably my fault.
Oh, okay. Can you? How am I coming in now?
Okay, let's see. Well, I hear you, but it'll just garble sometimes. Just FYI. Did you want to share your screen and kind of show? No.
We'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great device. So what we're gonna we can probably show a little more a little later. But want to go ahead and introduce Jim, and then Jim, you can start on photographing. I know it's scary when James is introducing you. You never know what you're going to get. But we'll be talking about photographing fireworks and lightning, which is going to be great because we have actually that kind of season coming up where we get these wonderful thunderstorms coming in, and we also have 4th of July coming up. So it gives you a good 4 weeks of practicing these techniques you're going to show us. So we'll let James introduce you now.
Well, I don't want to do so if I'm coming in garbled because that just wouldn't do Jim justice. Uh, but I'll do my best. So I've known Jim for close to 2 decades, and we've been good friends. And Jim has been uh, during the time ever since I've known him. He has been teaching photography. He's not just a photographer, but he is also a photographer instructor, and he has taught many successful photographers over the years, and he continues to do so. And that's where Jim's passion is teaching photography. I mean, Jim loves photography, but he really loves teaching people to be photographers. I think probably, I'm guessing, one of the most satisfactory feelings is seeing a photographer become successful that Jim has taught. Am I far from the truth on that? Am I correct?
I love that.
Yeah,
I
I
love that.
do. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Jim so he can talk to us about photographing
About
and fireworks.
about fireworks and lightning.
That's
Not
correct.
FinerWorks.
No, not FinerWorks.
I mean, it's close, but
Yeah.
and you can use the same letters. Just need to take out the N and
Yes.
change. Move the R forward a little bit. And hey, yeah, that's what we've got.
Yeah.
Oh, so thank you so much, James. Thank you so much, Melissa. It's always fun to share the things that we know. I think everyone feels that way. Maybe not, but I think it's fun for us to share the things that we know with others. I know that you both, Melissa and James, you both love sharing what it is that you know with other people so that they can benefit from it too. You aren't the kind of people that keep things to yourself, and the kind of people that I surround myself with just don't do that. They love sharing, and so it makes me feel like, well, everybody's that way, right? Okay. I know that's not always true. Some of us hold our secrets in, but there's no reason to do that kind of thing. This is so much fun to share what it is that we know. And you're right, Melissa. There's a lot of things that are coming up storms coming in, but also lots of reasons for fireworks. And so there's one of the local Facebook page owners is Miguel Caldera, and he would, if he was on right now, he'd be recommending, go hang out at SeaWorld and at Fiesta, Texas, if you're in San Antonio, Texas. In fact, I'll come back to that here in just a little bit. But there's just lots of opportunities to do this time of year. So
Yeah.
I agree.
So many of the theme parks nationwide, or if not globally, I think even Tokyo Disney does a firework display. So really, no matter where you are in the world, find a theme park in the summer, they're going to be doing the fireworks.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I sent a handout to you, Melissa, via email. Did you get
Okay,
that?
let me check that out, and
Because
I will add
if,
it to our.
if not, I'll send it again. I only just did it.
Okay, it's probably just going to take a minute just to come through back here. And as soon as I get that, I got it. I will go ahead and add that on there so that people can get that link.
And you don't necessarily need the handout, you guys. You can follow along because I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully you can. Can you see that?
Yeah, look. I'm going to go ahead and put it here so we can have you. But I'm going to try to get you into this big window here.
Gotcha.
Let's see. We can do this. Let's see. Have you done a share your screen? Let me see. I think I have to stop sharing here. Okay, add to stream. There we
There
go.
it is.
And let's see. Let me get this way for right now. Just trying to see if we have a good, the best
That
possible
works.
format there. Yeah. So
Yeah,
everything
that's
is
perfect. So this is just the handout that I have, and you guys can follow along just by watching, or you can download it on YouTube. Is that right, Melissa? Did I say
Yeah,
that right?
it's going to be coming in the chat in 1 second. I'm just going to make it a shareable link in a second.
Nice. Very good. Well, we're talking about how to make great pictures of fireworks and of lightning. Now, you're going to see this handout just talks about fireworks, but I'm telling you, it's the same. The same things apply to both fireworks and with lightning. And so this report that we're sharing today is going to convey the amazing how to create amazing fireworks, photographs of fireworks. You don't use auto mode, you don't use program mode for this type of photography. You'll be using manual mode. I know for some of you that's a concern, but for others of you, you're like, well, I do everything in manual mode, so what's the big deal? Well, it's not a big deal for you. It's perfect for you. But this is a good way to push yourself into manual mode, because program mode and auto mode just don't work well with this type of photography. So follow the steps, and it's going to be easy even if you've never done manual mode before. By the way, you're not going to be using your flash. There are instances where you would, but not for this, not for what we're talking about today. So all you need is a tripod, a camera with an adjustable shutter speed, set up in an area with little or no light, and a slow shutter speed. Be sure not to move or jerk the camera when your photograph is being created. Using the shutter release helps. It's not necessary, but it helps. And that's it. We're done. Just kidding.
That's all. That's all there is to it. Now you are an expert.
All right. So,
Jim, you might want to zoom in on your presentation just a little bit, just so that if anybody
got
is
it.
just following along strictly on video, that they can read along with you.
How about...
And the presentation you
Is
will
that
find
good or more?
in the live chat comments there. That's if you can go a little more, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
Now, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you do have the option. That's perfect. To what do you call it? Cast it to your TV. I've watched a couple of your photo essays like that. It's
Oh,
nice
really?
to see you guys on an 80-inch TV.
Nice. Seriously?
Yeah,
Wow.
with stereo speakers going on too.
Oh my. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That is cool.
technology.
Mm-hmm. All right. So is that size looking better, or do you want me to go even larger?
That looks better.
So I can go.
If you
I
want to
think
go a little
maybe
larger,
a slight bit bigger. Yeah.
yeah. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. I definitely like that better. All right. Cool. And so, sure, what I just said is true, but there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that go into creating beautiful photographs of fireworks and lightning. So let's start off with the tools that you're going to need. Now, a tool is just something that you're using, and this comes in the form of things that that are real obvious, like cameras and lenses and tripods. But this is also in your knowledge of the tools and where you're setting up the location, the angle that you're choosing. Those are mental tools, but they're still in the same category of tools. So let's talk about the physical tools first. You need a camera. Well, what kind of camera? Any camera that has the ability to adjust the settings. Even better, one that has bulb mode. And that's a shutter speed option that allows you to hold open the shutter for as long as the shutter button is depressed, or if you're using something, either a tethered or a wireless trigger, that you can start it and then you press it again in order to get it to stop. Generally, there's other ways to do that on those. Now, a word about cell phones, because you can use cell phone cameras for this too. It's probably better with video than it is with stills, but still. Miguel Caldera, the administrator of the largest San Antonio, Texas photography Facebook group, suggested a couple of things for me, and so I added it to today's message. So he said there's an Android app called Lightning Camera. You run the app and it works in video mode. Follow the lightning like you're going to photograph it. When you see a good uh, busy through your phone. I didn't read this before putting it on here. So maybe there's a typo there, or maybe I'm misunderstanding. But when you see something through the phone, you just press button. The next screen and the last few seconds of that image are captured. So select anything that looks good and you save it. It works in video mode, capturing video constantly, but only saving the last few seconds. You select what you like and dump the rest. No tripod required unless you want to stack multiple images together. Works good for any action photography too. So thank you so much, Miguel, for suggesting that, because I didn't have anything for cell phones
Yeah.
planned, and you can use a cell phone. I would say there's a lot of advantages to not using the cell phone, but if that's what you have, that's the camera you have. That's the tool you're going to use. So
And
that's
that
what
app again was called
Lightning Camera.
Lightning Camera. Yeah,
And it's
that's
for Android. There's
yeah.
probably something that you could do for Apple, but that one that he's mentioning is for Android.
Mhm. I mean, the like you're saying, the advantage and disadvantage, I guess, would be your lens on the camera. You kind of don't have
Yeah,
the same lenses. You have the capability on a DSLR.
that's true. Yeah, that's very true. A lot there's so many different variables that someone says what's the best. It's hard to answer that question because there's so many variables. It part of the decision making in my answering the question of what's best is what tools do you have available, and then we answer what's best with those particular set of tools. But if you've got time, you can always rent things. So there's so many different good options. For instance, when it comes to lenses, a wide angle zoom lens like a 10 to 22 or a 16 to 35, an 18 to 55, which is a kit lens, is good. A 24 to 70 millimeter is good. I do like to have a zoom lens on my camera because I can obviously I can zoom in and out. I can zoom in on the action. I can come back from it a little bit. But when I'm photographing lightning, photographing lightning or fireworks, these can be big, really big, and so that's why I'm usually in that wider angle range. Now it depends on the distance, of course. If it's lightning that's a really good distance away from me, then I might want to have one of these longer lenses that I have not listed here in order to get that. So even still, there's reasons to use tools that I didn't list here. But generally speaking, you're going to be close to the fireworks, and hopefully not too close to lightning. So unless you're a good distance from the fireworks, telephoto zoom lenses aren't going to be the best option. However, there are no solid rules which focal length should be used because it depends on your distance, how far away you are from the fireworks and how big those fireworks are. Next tool I think you need is a tripod. Can you do this without? Yeah. But I recommend using a tripod. I don't want the camera to move during the exposure. And there's times when I want to get multiple flashes of lightning or bursts of fireworks in the same photograph. And the only way to do that well is by having a longer shutter speed. The longer the shutter speed, the more chance you will introduce motion just with your hands, just holding it. And so having it on a tripod gives you advantage. Now, knowing where things are going to happen is a huge advantage too. Knowing where the fireworks are going to be is an advantage. Knowing where lightning is going to be. How do you know where lightning's going to be? Well, if it's all of it over there in the distance, well, then you can guesstimate approximately where the next lightning strike's going to happen. But if you're closer to it, you don't, and so you want a wider angle lens for that. But with the tripod, I have the ability to set everything up and not worry about motion of my camera during that exposure. And this does play. It just makes it overall easier just for holding it. If you're holding your camera and lens, after a while you're going to get tired. Your arms are going to get tired, and so having it on a tripod helps in that respect as well. Of course, we have to have the mount. We have to have an appropriate mount that connects the camera to the tripod. And when you buy a tripod, that usually comes with that, but there's also things that you can buy to connect your cell phone. And there are also different mounts for cell phones, camera and tripod mounts for cell phones. So consider all those things. A lot of times the mount is not connected to the tripod. It's a separate piece where you take it off, you connect it to the bottom of the camera, and you connect it. So make sure you don't leave home without that connection, because it's very frustrating to wind up where you need to be with a tripod and a camera, but no way to connect the two. Has anybody experienced that? I have. Not fun. Now, I mentioned earlier the remote shutter release. There's basically two types of remote. There's the tethered, so connected via a wire, and wireless. Your camera must be completely still while photographing fireworks. When using longer shutter speeds, anything longer than a 30th of a second, for some people, for me, I don't like to go anything under an 80th of a second. I just don't want to risk the potential motion. But most people can probably handle a 60th or even down to a 30th. You know, if you've got the stereotypical stillness of a surgeon, maybe you can go even slower. But why risk that, in my opinion? So around a 30th of a second, for sure, you should start really using a tripod, and then a shutter release is going to be beneficial. I do sometimes set my camera on a 2-second delay, but what happens if the lightning happens during that 2-second delay? Don't want that. But there's actually another tool that you can consider for that, and that's the strike finder. And there's lots of different tools that are made for this kind of thing, but you connect this to your camera, and it will photograph the lightning or the fireworks for you at the moment when it happens. And so it's just a really cool tool that I have here that I can connect to my camera and be able to have that lightning or fireworks be created at the moment that it happens. So this triggers it. It's got a sensor up in the front. It connects to your hot shoe because you don't need a flash. And it just connects to your camera real easily. By the way, the strike finder, one of the reasons why I recommend it is because it works. But I also recommend it because it's made here locally in San Antonio. The owners are here, and it's made here in San Antonio. Thank you for bringing that bigger so they could see that. Yeah, I actually couldn't tell. My screen is partially covered, and so I didn't know that you had done that until it came back to the screen. I was like, she must have. So thanks for doing that, Melissa. I appreciate it. Yeah, the Strike Finder is a super cool tool. And no, I didn't tell them I was going to be mentioning it today. So if they happen to be watching, they'll be happily surprised. By the way, it's just run by a 9-volt battery. So just a common battery. Works very easily. Works for a lot of other things too. Like if you want to photograph paint dripping into water or paint dripping into paint and catch the drips. You've seen those photographs before. You can use that for that purpose. So that's another example of a shutter release because it's taking care of that for you. It's more of an automatic shutter release than the type that I just mentioned before, the tethered and the wireless, where you trigger it. You can set it for a longer period of time to collect multiple strikes of lightning or multiple flashes or multiple bursts of fireworks. And then, of course, you got to have a memory card in that camera. That would be the ultimate in frustration. You get set up, you're ready to go, and you realize you have no media to record the images. that you're about to record. Yeah, don't forget the memory card.
Yeah.
Next, additional tools to consider that aren't really photography tools, but they're going to come in handy. If you're going to be outside for a while, watching the fireworks, if it's an event, a July 4th event, let's say, you're probably going to take some food and drink with you. But I recommend that you just plan for that anytime even if you're just going to photograph the fireworks at the end of the day at a theme park. Bring something with you, at least some water, maybe some snacks, and then a flashlight because it's going to be dark. You may not be able to see your stuff. Sometimes I recommend someone bring a red flashlight, not the color of the cover, but the color of the light, because the red affects your eyes less. In fact, if you were to ever hang out with astrophotographers, they will absolutely recommend that your flashlight be a red light rather than a white light. It's just easier in transition between looking at your things with the red light and then looking back at the images. So your eyes adjust quicker. Speaking of eyes adjusting quicker, you guys know why pirates wore an eye patch, right? It wasn't because they lost an eye in a sword fight. It was the pirates that would go up and down between decks. Is that what you've heard too, Melissa?
I was going to say it's because they're photographers and they just
Oh,
need
yeah.
to keep looking for one.
Exactly. So if you had a job on a ship at that time and you were going below deck and above deck, it's very dark. There's no lighting really below. I mean, there's lamps and stuff, but it's very dim lighting below compared to outside on a bright, beautiful sunny day. And so they would have one eye covered when they were down below, and then when they went above, they'd switch eyes. And so that way, when they came back and they would go back below deck, their eye would already be adjusted to that lower light situation. And there would be no 5-minute adjustment time before they could get back to work. I don't know if you guys knew that already, but yeah, that was a thing. That was a real thing. And so I think the red light is a little bit easier on the eyes, and that's what I recommend that you have with you. Now, have a white light one with you too when you're leaving, because it's really hard to walk, but it's easy to see your stuff with a red light. And then a chair. Do you want to stand there the whole time, or do you want to sit on the ground? Now, bring one of those easy folding chairs and set that up. And then just in case, I mean, of rain, an umbrella. Now, you may think, well, are they going to do the fireworks show if there's rain? They might. What about lightning? Are they going to do the lightning show if there's rain? Come on, guys. There's probably going to be some rain if you're photographing lightning. But you might not want to be out in the open then. You might want to be underneath something. So an umbrella for lightning is probably not a good idea because that might attract the lightning. This is for when you're out photographing fireworks, not for the lightning. All right. Now, to practice, this is something I mentioned before. Miguel suggested that you hang out at, say, if you're in San Antonio, Texas, hang out at Fiesta, Texas. They have year-round fireworks that are visible from the mall parking lot that's right there next to it, like Ontario, or the Rim. But there are a lot of lights in that area, so that does cause a little bit of an issue, but it's still a good place. SeaWorld also has fireworks, and it is sometimes difficult to get to that one. They have a parking lot, but you have to pay to park there. You have to have a reason to be there. There are lots of streets that are around SeaWorld, and so a lot of times people will just hang out on those streets to see those fireworks. I live within 5 miles of SeaWorld. And so I can see those fireworks.
Yep. You can hear them too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there anything you can do with your lens if you are in an instance like that where you're kind of in a parking lot that has those overhead lights that are there? Can you put a hood on the lens, or is there something that would help you? You know,
Possibly, yeah. There is. You're familiar with a lens hood, and a lens hood is for any specular highlight that is reflecting off the surface of the lens, but is not in the picture. It's not actually the light of it isn't coming directly in. You can't see the light source in the image, but the light is reflecting off the surface of the lens. And so if you've got a lens hood that blocks that light from reaching your lens, then that is that's beneficial. So in that instance, I would use a lens hood to block that light. But that's only good for light that's reflecting off the surface. If there's no light reflecting off the surface of your lens, then a lens hood doesn't even do anything. Now, some people leave it on there all the time for they call it insurance purposes, because if it hits that, it's less likely to it's likely to shatter that plastic and not harm your lens. And so it's not a bad idea to have it on, but there's no purpose benefit. So it's effect, there's no benefit to doing it. It's side effect as an insurance filter or an insurance piece of equipment. It is good for that. So, lens hood. Did you have anything else on that?
no, no. I was just wondering if that would help kind of get rid of all of that light that's in that light pollution that you're in when you're shooting fireworks that are a little farther off.
You could consider using a filter. Uh, all of a sudden, it's gone. The polarizing filter.
Okay.
Now, polarizing filters at night have a unique problem, and that's that they take away light. Luckily, the lightning is bright, and so are fireworks. And so, in that instance, you may need to consider using a polarizer. It's not something I would generally recommend. However, if there is extraneous light, you can at least reduce it with a polarizing filter. So that's something that you could play with.
Okay.
Polarizing filter. All right, so let's talk about preparation and some easy tips, easy steps. What should you prepare prior to photographing fireworks or photographing lightning? Well, just like in real estate, location, location, location. Find out where the photographs are going to be displayed and select the best possible location for your photographs. Same thing with lightning. If you have an opportunity to move to a better spot, now you may be a little bit more limited there because it may just happen. It may be one of those things where several nights in a row it's been lightning in about the same place, and maybe you can set yourself up the next night at a good spot. But for the most part, this is something that's easier to do with fireworks, especially if it's something like a theme park where they happen in the same spot every single time they happen. So that way you're able to prepare for it. Robin and I often go to the July 4th event at the Dominion Country Club, and they have fireworks each year, and they happen in the same spot every single time. And so everybody goes out, and it's on the 18th fairway, and everybody goes out and just kind of hangs out on some hills that are there, and they bring their own chairs and they set out and they watch them. But I am backed up a little bit from them because on the other side of the 18th hole, the green there, is a small lake. And so I hang out on the other side of the small lake. They're kind of in the foreground, but it's so dark you can't see them. But I get the light, the light from the fireworks reflecting off of the lake.
Hmm.
And I'm all alone there. I guess no one else noticed that was a good spot, but that's where I like to hang out if I
Well,
do that.
next month, they'll now be there after
That's
this.
true. I'll have a crowd right there with me now. That's probably true. And that's a free fireworks show. I think most
Woodlawn
places are
Lake
free. Is
here.
Woodlawn Lake another good spot? Good.
Yeah, here in San Antonio, they'll do the Woodlawn Lake. Does it a lot of Air Force bases around the
Oh,
country.
that's right. Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to be in DC, I mean, Pops has. I always like to watch Pops on TV during the Fourth of July, and they have Boston also has a really great display. So if you're lucky enough to be in any of those, major cities where they do a really extravagant Fourth of July um, fireworks display, those are great, especially if you're able to get in something historic, like that. Like I said, if you're in DC and you're able to get the White House and fireworks, or
Yeah.
there's just so much that we have around that you could put at the foreground with fireworks that adds more to them than just the light blast up there. And that's another thing I think. How do you I guess the tripod would help with that, right? If you wanted something along that lines, if you want to be capturing in the foreground a historical building, and the fireworks going off above, just opening up your shutter speed there, and let it go, and again erase maybe some of the people from from your photograph as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way. There's a ton of things like that can be used. If that building though has a lot of light on it, if it's a historical building, it may be lit real well,
Mm-hmm.
and a longer shutter speed on one of those
Might
buildings will look pretty
too
bad.
bright. Yeah.
And so we may have to do a photo merge, where you
Mm-hmm.
photograph the lightning and you photograph the building, and you merge those two later on.
What about the filter that people use with what do you call it when you're shooting sunsets? And you've talked about that
It's
one
a
where it has that.
graduated neutral density filter.
Would that work?
It could. It
There's
absolutely
there's a
could.
there's a test y'all could try out, and see what
Yeah,
you get.
that's a good suggestion.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just kind of wondering if you could do something like that with leaving the shutter speed going, and
Hmm.
maybe using that to kind of offset the light that's in the foreground.
That's right. That's a good one. Good thinking, Melissa.
See, I've been listening to all of these topics with you. I haven't shot photography in a long time because my kid's now 25. It's been a long time, but you have given us so many great ideas. And I hope a lot of people are doing that with these, taking all of these lessons and just kind of combining them together.
You're pretty smart.
I have my moments.
What, you don't always feel that way?
Not always.
I can relate. Definitely. All right. So we want to choose a location that's ideal for what we're trying to do. So if that means in front of a historical building like Melissa suggested, or maybe framed with some tall trees on the side, uh, I like to have I'd like to do a little bit longer. So I like photographing right at the beginning, because a lot of times there is still light in the sky when they start the fireworks shows. It depends. Sometimes it is totally dark, but a lot of times they start them when there's still some light in the sky. And that fades away, of course, but it fades away at a different pace than what we actually see it as, because we view life at 1/24th of a second. That's our human shutter speed. And so when we're judging whether it's light or dark, that's based on a shutter speed of 1/24th of a second, which our camera's not limited to. So therefore, I can choose to have light in the sky longer than a human can see light in the sky. Not a whole lot longer, maybe 20 minutes, but that's about it. But during that time, I can create the most amazing blue backgrounds, the dark, brilliant, amazing, thick, rich blues. Instead of being solid black, I've got these dark blues, which I really prefer, because then I can have those trees in the foreground at the base, and they are solid black. And then you see a slight transition into the blue, the deep blue, and then the fireworks. Oh, I love that combination. My favorite. So once it goes completely dark, well, I actually slow down on the photographs that I create, because then they start looking like everybody else's. So if I'm going to create stuff that's going to look like everybody else's, I don't know how much time I'll spend with that.
Yeah, there's like a example, I think, of what you are talking about, um, along this line, right? Where you're saying right as it's
Yeah,
kind
that's
of,
pretty cool. Hmm.
yeah. like I said, the blues. And I don't, I guess I didn't even think about that option because you always think of fireworks photos with the solid black.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I'm glad you shared that because that is what I'm thinking. That's exactly right. I just love how that looks. I I was thinking a slightly deeper blue than that, but I love how that looks, and I think we
Hmm.
should all be taking advantage of that. And that look doesn't necessarily have to happen when you see it with your own eyes. If you like what you're seeing with your own eyes, then a route around 1/24th of a second. Now, 1/24th of a second is not an option on cameras. You could do 1/15th or 1/30th. So let's say 1/30th of a second, and that will get you what you're seeing. If you need to bring in a little bit more light because it's gotten a little bit darker, then you just increase the length of time, and it will increase the amount of light that you're collecting in the background. Now you may think, well, I don't want my fireworks to get overexposed, guys. They
Hmm.
don't last long enough for that to happen. So unless assuming you've got your ISO and your f-stop correct. And by the way, once you set those, we'll talk about this here in just a little bit. Once you set those, you're kind of going to forget those. Because I like 100 as my ISO. Later on I may have to change it, but I like 100 as my ISO for photographing both fireworks and lightning. But we'll come to that here in just a bit. If consider things in your foreground or background, buildings, bridges, rivers, lakes. If you're in a city, consider maybe being on the top of a building, of a garage, a parking garage, the a balcony of a hotel room. Choose a distance of about a football field away from fireworks. Being right underneath it limits your choices. And so I don't like being real. Of course, they won't let you get right underneath it, but
Hmm.
those, a lot of people want to get close, and I don't want to be that close to the fireworks. I want to be backed up just a little bit, so about a football field away, and I need to be able to pan my camera. That just means move it on its axis to any direction. Uh, uh, be upwind. Obviously, wind changes, so you can't always choose that as an option. But I don't want the smoke to obstruct my view. If there is no wind, you have a smoke accumulation. And so, therefore, the images that are created right at the beginning before that accumulation gets too thick are going to be the only good images. So, if it's one of those thick days, it's humid, it's hot, and there's no wind movement, you're going to get your photographs at the very beginning, and they are going to look pretty cruddy after that. So I don't, and that's just me. Maybe you'll like the smoke in the sky. I just like a clear sky. If that
Yeah,
smoke is cool, then go with that. But
it seems like that's something, like you said, with the humid days, like when we've had just, I want to say that some like along this line here where you just get that smoke accumulation kind of happening, and your fireworks
yeah,
just come out really solid, like white. You
mm,
don't get to really to grab as much color um in those. But yeah, I know what you're talking about because I've gotten some of these being right downtown on like I said, downtown. They'll also shoot the fireworks off the tower, and you're pretty much right under
hmm,
there. So sometimes you'll just get that smoke that kind of just falls straight
just
back down.
collects. Yeah.
And your shots kind of come out like that.
So if you're the one doing the fireworks, you don't like that situation, nor do you like it to be too windy,
Hmm.
because if it's too windy, there's a problem too. So just a slight wind to slowly blow the smoke away as the next ones are coming out is ideal for both those who do fireworks and for us creating our images of those fireworks. I do recommend that you get there early to claim your spot because at a lot of places, especially for things like July 4th, there's a good accumulation of people who will get in your shot. In fact, just because you're there early does not guarantee that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because someone inevitably, Murphy's Law maybe,
Mhm.
shows up and sets up shop right in front of you. And they're probably thinking, well, it's all happening right here in the sky, but that's why I'm choosing, I'm back a little bit. So I don't want someone right there in front of me. It's another reason I'm back a little bit, not in front, because I generally have fewer people around me. That's one of the reasons why I choose that. And I can zoom in. I don't have to, a wide angle lens is when you're super close. And you may use something in the middle, like an 18 to 55, or chances are not much more than that. I sometimes use my 24 to 70, though. All right, number 2, set your camera on a sturdy tripod. I'm not a fan of travel pods. If it can blow in the wind, if it has any motion in the wind, just normal wind, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Now, if that's what you have, then you can take a grocery bag and stick some rocks in it and hang it from the bottom of your tripod. That really does sturdy it up. So that is an option. Make sure your tripod is on some level or at least solid footing. If you don't have a tripod, you can still get good images. You just want to limit your shutter speed to nothing under around a 30th of a second. Don't go longer than that. So 1/30th to 1/25th is the range you want to be in for not having a tripod. Now, maybe you can set your camera down on something, or you can sturdy it up with something else. That's possible. You could put it up against a door frame maybe, and that is keeping it steady. So there are ways to make it happen if you don't happen to have your tripod with you. Let's see. In those instances where you don't have your tripod, it's possible you're going to have to raise your ISO, but not a lot. But that's a consideration. If you're sitting down on the ground, get your knees up and prop your elbows on your knees. That'll give you quite a bit more stability too. So that's if you don't have a tripod. Here I have suggested a starting point for handheld, an ISO of 800, aperture of 5.6, a shutter speed of 1/100. And that's a starting point. You tweak it from there to get what you want. Now, I don't recommend that. I recommend that you have it on a tripod and you have it at 100 ISO. And we'll come to that here. And the third, set your tools in the camera as follows. This is ideal version. Manual mode. Your autofocus needs to be off because your camera is not going to be able to focus that quickly before the fireworks go away many times. Now, does that mean every time? No, there are very fast focusing systems on cameras. So can it do it? Of course it can. But I recommend that you just put it in manual. You focus it on the very first one that you do. You check to make sure it's right, and you just lock it in. You just leave it. Don't even worry about it after that. Set your focus probably on infinity. It depends how close you are. But again, I like to be about a football field away. And so I'm setting it on infinity, but I'm bringing it back just a touch. So I've got it all the way to infinity and back just a touch. That's what I choose to do. And I have it on ISO of 100. The shutter speed, this depends on what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm trying to get a long shutter speed, or I'm trying to collect several different bursts of fireworks or lightning, I'm going to put my camera on bulb, meaning I can keep it open as long as I want to. Now, let's say you're photographing lightning at night. It is solid, it's dark out, and you just want to catch that lightning. You may be thinking, lightning's fast. It's faster than fireworks. Because fireworks have, they extend that there's a lot of them. Each one of them just starts one right after the other. So it lingers for a little bit, then it fades away. Whereas lightning is bam, and then it's over with. And so you may be thinking, something that is fast, I need a fast shutter speed for. Not when it's a light source that's fast. When it's a light source, then you can do any shutter speed and be able to create the amount of light. So I want to do, in that instance, a longer shutter speed and collect maybe multiple strikes during that time, or just leave it open until one goes off, and then I close it so that I'm ready. Because if I try and press the shutter button when I see the light, forget it. In that instance, though, probably the easiest tool is what I mentioned earlier, the strike finder. So that's the perfect tool for lightning. It's really good for fireworks as well. So look into that. It's I think it's strikefinder.com. Do I have the?
I'm going to look for it right now, and I'll put it in the.
Well, it probably is strikefinder.com. Thank you for looking into that.
Yeah.
All right. So, the shutter speed, it just depends on what I'm trying to accomplish. A short shutter speed would be 1/25th. Probably not going to use that one, but it depends on if there's a lot of light during the day. If the fireworks are happening while there is still a lot of light, then I do want to have it on that faster, that shorter period of time. I do want that in that instance. Aperture. This depends on a couple of different things, but it's probably going to be f5.6 to f16, and it's probably going to be on those higher numbers. So distance, air quality, and it's probably some other things play a role in the amount of light that you're collecting. For instance, the image that you showed us with the smoke earlier, I'm going to reduce the smoke by decreasing the period of time, having a less period of time, because I don't want light reflecting off of the smoke. And so that's going to be my patch, because it doesn't solve the problem. So I do have these different variables to consider. Focal length, usually a wide angle. Usually a wide angle is usually under 50 millimeters. The file type, RAW. Your camera's RAW mode. Now, maybe you want to have RAW and JPEG, so that maybe you can process them faster if that's what you choose to do. But I like to put my photographs through a processing step or procedure. And so I'm creating in RAW. That gives me more flexibility when I'm messing with them later in Lightroom. JPEG is good, and if you don't know how to use RAW, then JPEG is the right tool. It's perfect. If you don't want to mess with any post-production processing, you want the quickest option available, JPEG is it. Because it's the standard. It's what you upload when you're posting to your Instagram or your Facebook or your LinkedIn. It's a file type that you send to FinerWorks when you want to get that amazing photograph of lightning or fireworks printed on metal. So JPEG is a great file type. I just choose to create in RAW because it gives me more options in post-processing. So RAW. Now, white balance. This only matters if you're photographing in JPEG, because whatever white balance you put your camera on when you're in RAW, your camera ignores. Now, that little screen on the back of your camera, that LCD screen so you can see your photographs, I call it confidence, because I believe that's what it gives us. So I like calling things what they are. That little screen on the back of your camera gives us confidence, especially when compared to film cameras that you weren't sure what that photograph was going to look like until you got everything processed. So having that screen on the back of your camera gives you more confidence. You can fix a problem right now because you can see it right now. If you're photographing in JPEG, I want you to put it on daylight. If you're photographing in RAW, put it on daylight too, but it doesn't actually matter. Now, you may think, well, it does matter, because when I see that photograph on the screen, if I change it between the different types, even if I'm in RAW, it changes. Yes, because that image that's on the back of your screen has already been processed to a JPEG, even if you're not recording in JPEG, because because that's the quickest way to show you. So that image you're seeing on the back of your camera is a JPEG image, even if you're creating in RAW or writing in RAW. So that's why if you photograph in monotone, it's a black and white, and you have it in RAW, it shows it to you in black and white on the screen on the back of your camera. But then when you get it to your computer and you look at it, it's in full color. Your camera ignores that when it's in RAW, because you told your camera, I don't care about these other things. I want you to give me everything unfiltered. So that's what that is. So daylight balance for JPEG photographs. And that's either lightning or fireworks. It doesn't matter. You want daylight. And that may seem odd. Why would I want daylight? It's the right tool. It's the right light. It looks amazing. Number 4, choose your composition. Now, choosing your location plays a role in this, but even if you don't have the best location, you still have the ability to choose the best composition for the space that you're in. So, what do you want to include in your photograph? You already chose the perfect location, right? Even if you didn't, this is where you fine-tune that choice. Consider including a nice foreground, such as a building, a bridge, a pool, a lake, a river, a historical building, as Melissa suggested. Reflections in water can be amazing. That's why I have that in the list. Pay attention to what's in your background. Many times, there's nothing in the background. But if there is, make sure it's something that doesn't distract or take away from the story you're trying to convey. If it does, you're going to need to move. When unsure about composition, consider using the rule of thirds. While most photographs are created horizontally, you do have the option of photographing in vertical if you'd like. I like to do that, especially if I'm photographing the reflection in the foreground, because then I've got that here down at the bottom and the fireworks up here at the top. So it does better as a vertical. Also consider, if you're going to be printing this and putting it up in your home, what's the space that you're going to be displaying this in? What's ideal for the space? So if you want a photograph of lightning and the space that you have to put it in is a vertical space, then create your photographs as vertical.
Have you ever had anyone who's wanted their portrait done while a firework display is going off in the back? I'm thinking people who've done engagements and stuff like that. And again, that would be kind of shot vertical, but I'm just kind of wondering if you've ever run into that instance, because that's your forte is portraits. Have you ever had anyone with some kind of a
Yeah,
firework display behind them?
it's been rare, but yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Now that's I would say it's common for people to photograph their own family or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever in it with or a selfie of a
Hmm.
couple with the fireworks going off in the background, of course. And what do you do in that instance? A flash generally is too bright. So there are times the flash on your cell phone is generally going to be too
Hmm.
bright. And so you may want to reduce that somehow, or put yourself in a situation where there is light on you. It's coming from a different source. It's coming from an overhead light. It's coming from reflecting off of a wall, but have some other source of softer light that's coming, less harsh light that's reflecting off the face of the people you're photographing,
Hmm.
or if you're doing a selfie, your own. I'd, but if I was photographing for someone, they were going to use this image that was going to go up on their wall, I am going to use a flash. I'm going to put it in a softbox. It's going to be minimal. It's not going to be very bright at all, but it's just what some people call a kiss of light. It's a little bit more than a kiss, because a kiss is more like a highlight. But I'm going to put that on them. But I'm probably going to use two lights: a light for the front and a light to rim them, to put a layer of light around them to separate them from the background. Especially if I'm photographing someone with darker hair, I want them to. I don't want their hair to merge into the background.
Hmm.
So if I'm photographing you, Melissa, I want to have a light behind them,
Yeah.
because I don't want your hair to become sky.
Yeah.
So I don't want people looking at it,
No floating faces.
wondering, yeah, what's going on here. So I want that rim lighting. In that instance, I need two lights for that.
Hmm.
So yeah, that happens. One of the teachers that used to work with me, named Jim Benniger, has he retired earlier, less than a year ago, but he has a photograph that he likes to share with one of his classes. That is a photograph that he did of bride and groom at their wedding with the fireworks going off in the background, and they have their Rolls Royce, and they're standing next to that with beautiful
Wow.
fireworks in the background. He has a flash on them that's not too bright, and it's just right. And you can imagine that that image has brought years and years of joy to that couple and subsequently their family.
Yeah. I mean, that's just one I was thinking of is that people do traditionally the engagement photo in front of the Disneyland castle. And what I have not seen, which I'm always thinking, well, wow, I'm surprised nobody's caught these really awesome with the fireworks display. The castle is lit and gotten that picture because to me that fireworks and engagement photos just seem like they should go hand in hand. But I'm gonna guess
Yeah,
it really takes an expert to capture that because there's so much going on in that photo.
there's definitely some things, some variables to consider that you wouldn't have to otherwise.
Mm.
So I agree. It's
There's
one
a
of
way
those
to
things, though, that
hustle and
once
make
you
a
get
buck
it.
for
Oh, I'm sorry.
Fourth
What
of
was that?
July. I said there's a way to hustle and make a couple of bucks during the 4th of July when you go scout locations and then offer to do some engagement photos out that way.
I agree. Totally agree with that. All right. So, number 5, let's set your remote shutter release with your camera and test it. Or plan to use your time delayed shutter. So I will sometimes put my shutter, if I don't want to press the shutter during an exposure, I will put it on a 2-second delay. Now, there's also the longer version where maybe you're photographing your own family and you want to be in the photograph too, and you put it on a 10-second delay, giving you enough time to run over there and stand in the spot that you need to be in before the shutter actually goes off. But if I'm not going to be in it and I need to not be touching my camera during that when I'm pressing the shutter, especially if I'm photographing something small or photographing the fireworks or lightning, I don't want to have the potential that there's motion just by me pressing the shutter. And so I often put it on a 2-second delay in that instance. Not usually when photographing people. There's times when I do then too, though. So that's the time delayed shutter. Definitely want to practice that if you're unfamiliar with it. You don't want to catch yourself in a dark environment and not know how to do it. If you're so You can see that on number 5, I say I set mine to 2 seconds after I press the shutter release. That way the camera has settled if pressing the shutter caused any camera movement. Now, sometimes it causes no movement. Great. But I don't want to risk it. So I put it on 2-second delay. But the remote makes it where you don't need a 2-second delay. So just get a remote. All right. Photographing fireworks. Here's the steps. Once you hear the first explosion, you start to press and hold a remote shutter release button on your 2-second delay. Then you look at the fireworks showing their magic until it disappears and then release the button. Normally, 3 seconds, maybe as long as 9 seconds, depending on the length of each firework. Now, you're just getting that first one because you want to make sure you've got your settings right. Check your LCD screen. As you know, I call it confidence. And see how the composition and lighting look. You may need to make some adjustments. Maybe the focal length, the composition, shutter speed, ISO, aperture, in order to get what it is that you want out of that photograph, the right composition, the right amount of light. Do it quickly, make that change, and then repeat. Do it again. All right, now here's an intermediate level tip. Check your histogram. You want the highlights to be near the right side, not stacked up and tall, just shoved up against that right side. So, are you familiar? I know not everybody's familiar with the histogram, and on some cameras, just by when you have the photograph up on you're looking at it after it's been created. Just press the little round dial on the back, press down on it, and it will show it. On a lot of cameras, it isn't the same on all. But I do like to look at my histogram. My histogram tells me, even without looking at the photograph, if it's the correct exposure. So, histogram. What things should you be considering or looking for to make sure that things are right? But by the way, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What's right is up to you. But here's some considerations. Number one, correct exposure. Can you see the colors of the fireworks, or is it just white? By the way, with light, the longer the exposure, the more the light radiates out. If you're photographing street lights at night, if you do a longer exposure, they radiate out from where the light source is. And if that's what you want, great. But if that's not what you were after, there's an area to fix, to correct. So 1A is ISO. I want you to have this always on the lowest that you're able to get away with. So for me, that's 100. That's what it is on my camera. I know some cameras go lower than that. Some cameras start at 200 and go up, but most cameras are right around 100. And so that's what I want. Are there reasons why if I had a camera that went less than that I would choose to go lower? I might not. I probably still would stay right around 100. But maybe. I mean, if it improved the grain structure where I just don't see it at all, I'm definitely leaning in that direction. But ISO, as far as technology, is not the same thing as shutter speed or f-stops. Shutter speed's a specific period of time. There's nothing that technology can do to change that or improve that. Same thing with aperture. Aperture is measured in units of f-stops, focal stops. So it's the unit of measurement, like the unit of measurement for saying how large your keyboard is would be done in inches if you're here in the U.S. But if you're measuring the opening, the size of the opening that's letting the light come in through your lens, that's measured in units of f-stops. We've got these different tools that we're able to use in order to get the most ideal photograph. And each one of them has the effect and the side effect. So the effect of ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, it's all light. That is the effect. On all three, it's an amount of light. But the side effect is what's different on each one. With ISO, I was mentioning just a moment ago that technology is not solid like, it's unchanging like f-stops and like aperture and like shutter speeds. With ISO, it's an algorithm. And so as the technology keeps getting better, as those who are writing it keep on improving on that, we get less and less grain showing up and even higher and higher ISO numbers. Where just 5 years, 10 years ago, especially if you go back 20, you would be reluctant to go above 400. Today, if you bought a camera today, you can't even hardly tell the difference between 400 and 100, 800 and 100, maybe even all the way up to in the thousands, tens of thousands, before you can start telling the difference, before you can start seeing the difference. And it's only going to keep on getting better. So that part's really cool. And then B, shutter speed, whatever length of time it takes to create the image that you want. So if you're trying to get multiple bursts of light, whether that's lightning or whether that's fireworks, if you want multiple in the same image, you do a longer period of time. Now, that's one advantage to when it is solid black, there is just no light left in the sky. There's one advantage there because things are consistent. The light isn't continuing to change, it's just dark. So therefore, I can create images at that time that have multiple bursts of fireworks. Man, I keep in my head saying FinerWorks and having to correct myself. Shouldn't have said what I said at the beginning. These multiple bursts, I could have a whole bunch of them in the same photograph, which looks really cool. But a lot of people like to just create them singles, and then if they want multiples, they do it in post. They bring up Photoshop and just bring up these cool images and put them in a photograph, create their own photograph. This is cool too. So whatever it is that you want to do, that's great. And with 1C aperture, smallest opening, probably an f16, the largest f4. So I want to be in that range. I really generally am on that smaller end, so the higher numbers, f8, f11, f16, that's generally where I'm at. I say generally, I might have a specific reason why I don't want that. Having the right amount of light plays a role, but having the right shutter speed plays a role. ISO too, because ISO 100 just doesn't have, it's not real sensitive to light. But the thing I'm photographing is pretty bright. Lightning, that's really bright. So of course I want 100 on that. Number 2, on what things should you be considering to make it look, by your definition, right? Pleasing composition. So this includes focal length. This includes direction that the camera is pointed. It includes the location that you're at. And then number 3, of course, that it's in focus. I like to manually focus on infinity based on my distance. Now, if I was closer, I would not do that. It's because I am at a football field away that I can get away with that kind of thing. And so you do what it takes. Number 2, if you would like to get many fireworks or lightning in one image, choose a long shutter speed. Multiple seconds, or use the bulb option, which is only available in manual mode, which is where you're going to have your camera in anyway. And it's just below 30 seconds. So if you're scrolling and you're going down, a second, 2 seconds, and 4 seconds, and 8 seconds, and so all the way to 30 seconds, go one more, and that's when you hit bulb. It is the only shutter speed available on your camera that is not a specific period of time. It's however long you choose it to be. It's just not timed. So if you want it to be 5 minutes long, make sure you're in a real dark environment, because you're going to collect a lot of light. If you're going to be photographing the stars, you might want a longer shutter speed, but it depends on what you're doing there. So like if you go to Colorado in sometime this summer, maybe in August, and you want to photograph the Milky Way with the mountains in the foreground. By the way, that looks super cool to do that. We just did that this past year, and we generally have plan a trip every year to go do that. But if you do too long a shutter speed when you're photographing the Milky Way, you can't tell. You can't see it very well because of the motion of the Earth. So you need a relatively faster shutter speed in that instance. Not fast. I mean, probably 1/40th of a second is what you need, because you need to bring in enough light so that you can see what's there. Maybe a slight bit longer than that, but not much. Maybe a tenth. But anything too long is going to cause those little dots of light to become a stretch. And if it's real long, lines, which if you're doing star trails looks really cool. Again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. It says, note, you will collect the path of the light. This can be cool, or it may not be what you want. Longer exposures show the entire path of the fireworks. Shorter shutter speeds show just a brief moment. By the way, it's possible to have too many bursts of fireworks in one image. It starts to look bad if you get too many. There's certain areas that will get blown out, and you'll lose the color in those areas. And then choose faster shutter speeds at the finale, when they usually go crazy with the end, when it's just boom, 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 boom. They just happen one after the other. I want a faster shutter speed at that time. But again, there's no rules here. Have fun. Be creative. Play. Don't stress out over this. It's supposed to be fun. All right. Next is check your LCD screen. What I call confidence. Check it often. I'm not talking about like you're at a wedding and you're chimping. Have you heard this before, chimping?
No.
Every single photograph, you look at it.
Oh.
So, when you're photographing stars, you're photographing lightning, you're photographing fireworks, I look at every single one of those. But if I'm photographing an event, I look at them to make sure that eyes are open, and I look at them occasionally to make sure that the exposure is correct. But chimping is where you're relying on every single time. You've got it here, you put it down here. You got it here, you put it down here. It's chimping. Chimping. Looking at it every single time, chimping. And so I'd say you check it often at first, but then once you got what you want, don't need to do it so often anymore. So view the results as you go, adjust as necessary, change the composition if you feel like it. That's number 3. Number 4, and this is the last one of these suggestions. I've read the articles that say not to do this, but I delete as I go. So if I don't like an image and I know I don't like it, I delete it. And the reason is because I will have forgotten that when I bring it up in Lightroom. I won't know why I didn't like that photograph. And so I don't want to waste my time with it. Something caused me to know that I wasn't going to like it, so I want to delete it. I'm not telling you you have to do the same, because there's times when I haven't deleted something and I wound up liking it, but I really, generally speaking, don't want to mess with that. It's too time consuming. I do enough stuff that wastes enough time. I need to eliminate some of those things, and this is one way that I do that, especially when I bring images up on the screen. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes which one's the best. And if I knew when I was creating it, I could have solved that problem right then when it happened. So I delete it immediately if I know that I don't like it. Now, last thing is, after the photography, when you're done, back up those digital files. You guys know this. I've lost digital files. You've lost digital files. This is the opposite of fun. So back them up as soon as possible. I like to have 2 cards. I've got 2 card slots in my camera, and a lot of you guys do too. I like to have the backup on that second card. That way, even if one card is bad, I have a backup. And then I get it to my computer, and I have 3 times redundant on my 4 times redundant with a NAS that has 4 terabyte cards in it. And so I like to once I have added it there, then I delete it from my cards. And then I reuse the cards. And number 2, display your images. Don't just enjoy them on a computer screen or on your phone screen. Send those images over to FinerWorks and get them printed. Not every single one. You don't have to print every single one, but get some of those printed. This is how we get to enjoy it later on. Get some of them printed. Have a space on your wall, or maybe plan to create a book. Give some away as gifts. You've got some friends and family who would really appreciate that. Maybe just give them an 8x10. It doesn't need to be something that's huge. But give them a gift. This is something that you enjoy and that you're sharing with someone else. You think that's a good advice?
Yeah,
Melissa?
and right, I just poked up on there. Mike Tidwell was thanking us for this session, and I believe Mike Tidwell has actually printed up some of his great lightning shots and has entered them into juried shows and won. And he's printed them on metal. They look amazing. That metal with the
Nice.
high contrast and the gloss onto it, just it's a really beautiful image. So that's another thing too. But maybe if you're not, I want to say if you're really starting out on all of this, try something like that. Put it in a juried show. You win. You get that confidence, and then you know what? You can sell prints of it as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's plenty of ways to show things off. A physical gallery, a web gallery, show them off on social media. Create a slideshow and set it to music. You can use Animoto.com. It's real easy to use that. A lot of computers have slideshow software already on them. So share that kind of thing, those kind of things with friends.
And let me see. I just want to make sure. I put the link to Strike Finder on there. It's actually strikefinder.photo for that one. So
Thank you.
that link is there in the chats. Let me just have that so that you can just verify that we have the right business on there. Let's see. Here we go. Would that be it right there, Jim?
That definitely looks like it to me. Yep.
Okay. And I believe that's the Lightning camera app for Android that you had mentioned
Good.
earlier.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
And that is the bulb feature you're talking about, correct? Hit the
Yes.
manual and go to bulb. Okay. Just in case anybody didn't catch the wording on it, that's where you would see that.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Perfect.
Those little visual elements to to
They
see.
help.
We're a lot of visuals on us. What do you have coming up next? I know we have. Oh, let's see. I think. Hold on. We got Mike Tidwell having something there. Also, MyOps Smart. That is what I use.
Okay.
So
Cool.
there's that
Yeah, thank
from.
you for sharing that.
Um, what do you? We're gonna have our next Photo Tips Monthly will be July 7th, and you're going to be talking about the delivery and installation. So,
Ooh,
and to me, that
cool.
falls even for artists. So, could you give us a
Yeah.
little bit of a description on what you want to cover on that topic?
So this is unusual. Most photographers, there's photographers that don't even print. I don't understand that. But there's most photographers that do print don't install the work on the wall. To me, this is a service. We are providing a service, and it would be to me again. This is one guy's opinion. No one needs to share this, but I'm going to share with you why I feel the way I do, and you can just hear one other person's opinion and take it or leave it. But in my opinion, if we don't complete the work, then we are giving work to our clients to do. And people don't hire someone as for service who doesn't who gives them more work to do. Let's not let's take art out of it, and let's give a different example. How about if you are a roofing company? If you're a roofing company that did what some photographers do and not complete the job, meaning there's more work for the client to do, here's what roofers would do. They would take off the old roof, put all that stuff into that roll-off dumpster, have that thing hauled away, and then take their ladders down, go put them back on the truck, take the packages of shingles and go lay them down next to the garage door, and then go back out to the truck and get this nice bag of nails that they put a beautiful bow on, and walk up to your door and say, "All right, I'm done. You guys know how to use a hammer and nails. In fact, I have this bag of nails for free because I love you guys so much. Make sure to tell your friends about me. See you later." That's what photographers do, portrait photographers do to their clients. Now, they're not thinking about it. I don't think they're bad people for not completing the job. I'm just thinking if you put what you do into another company, another type of business, another industry, it would be seen as horrible service. You would wind up on the troubleshooters or the defenders or whatever that's called in your town when the news is going after a business that didn't do the things they're supposed to do, didn't finish the job. In my opinion, if you're a portrait photographer and you don't print and install those photographs on the wall, then you are giving your client more work to do. So that's my philosophy. So that's the base. What we'll be talking about, though, is how do I do that? How am I telling people I'm going to do that? How they react to it? By the way, everybody loves it. They think of, what? No one's ever done that before. Oh, by the way, the reason why I do the install, now, this was this is a good number of years ago, but I printed something for someone, got the framing done, and delivered it to their house. I did not do the installation. This is before I did that. This is the reason. This is the thing that caused me to realize how important it is. They wanted those prints for the wall for a party that they were going to be having. It was just a dinner party. It's like a housewarming party, a dinner party. And a lot of people were going to be coming over. In fact, I was one of the people that was coming over. And so I was thoroughly excited to see the photograph on their wall because I had delivered it in time. I got it to them by the date they asked for. And so I arrive, I'm excited. I'm thinking, man, people are going to be looking at that photograph and saying, oh my gosh, who did that? And I'm going to walk away with a bunch of business, right? It wasn't where I could see it. And so I said, where did you wind up putting that photograph? And she said, oh, Jim, I'm sorry, in the closet. Oh, why? What happened? She said, I have been so busy preparing for this party that I just didn't have time to put it up. That's when I realized I gave her more work to do. I had not thought this through. And at that point, I saw myself as being rude. Now, I don't think most people would see themselves that way. But what I saw in myself was I could have solved this problem for her had I only thought the problem through. I didn't even realize it was a problem. It never crossed my mind before.
Mhm.
But if I knew then what I know now, that photograph would have been on the wall. She would have been proud of it. People would be commenting about it, lifting her up, making her feel better. And she was already feeling good, but making her feel even better. And she would get to enjoy this with her family and friends.
Mhm.
And I effectively, because I didn't think things through at that point, I didn't allow her to have that. That to me is my fault. That is not her fault. She is not a photographer. She's not in the business of creating memories so that you can enjoy them for years to come and cry tears of joy when you get to be around them. That's my job. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I saw myself as failing her. That's how I saw it. And so from that point on, I install the photographs. Now, if someone does not want me to, that's fine. I won't. But to me, it's part of the deal, and I don't even charge them extra for it. It's included in the price, so
Mhm.
it's not like I'm losing money on the deal. I'm not. But I include it in the price, and I go and I deliver it in their home, and then we photograph them. I photograph it on their wall, so I have a marketing piece, and I photograph them in front of it. But I'll get into all that kind of detail
Yeah.
later. I just realized I'm really going too far into it. I get so excited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, like I said, that was the aha moment, and those
It
aha
was.
moments stick with you. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tell people this is the reason I have a collapsible easel in my bed in my car all the time for things like that, for people who have events and they're running. And I've done events for a lot of years, so I always I laugh because it's a Mustang, but you would think it would be like a 15 passenger van with all of the stuff that I end up putting in and I can pull out of there. Um, but that's like I said, I think that's like I said, that completing the service is just something we don't think of, and that goes for anybody doing any kind of print. We've seen a Kevin Sanders do the his elaborate art photography prints, and those things are massive, huge, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mean, just to see, I've seen his photos of those hanging, and they are just gorgeous, So finishing up that job like that is great. If you're young enough too to keep getting up on there, and if not, I would think and I don't know. We'll talk about more on that because I have some questions for that on there, so I'll have to write it down so I remember to ask you during that
Cool.
segment. What about photo essay? Do you have anything coming up? Do they have a photo assignment that they're doing, or?
Yes, thank you for asking. So, Photo SA meets once a month, and it is in person now. We've been meeting in person since March at the Dominion Country Club. So, it's the second Thursday of every single month. Now, we also live stream it, so if someone can't make it or they're just not in the area, they can also participate by going to the Photo SA Facebook page. So just do a search on Facebook for Photo Essay. No spaces, just Photo Essay. So Photosa, I guess, is what it looks like. Photosa. That's what it looks
Essay.
like. And so so it's just we just live stream it on
Yeah.
those days. And every month we have a camera photographer's challenge where you submit photographs, and those are due. Those are going to be due by this coming Tuesday. And the topic is pe- what is it? Something with pets.
Let me see.
Pets. Dang it. Pets having fun or something. Oh man! All of a sudden, I've forgotten what the topic was. Let me let
Let's see.
me
And you don't have Trusty Rob in there, do you?
let me yell out to her real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and see if I can find there we are. Photo essay. Let me see if I can see what your topic is.
Pets at play.
Pets at play.
I yelled out to Robin and she yelled back.
That's like I said, that's a great team there. And
Yep.
there it is up on Meetup.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Yeah. So uh, on meetup.com, uh, under photo essay, so it's the San Antonio Photography Meetup group. When we started that in 2006, they required that that we have as part of our name Meetup group.
Uh-huh.
And so it's why it has such a long name. They don't require that anymore. That was
Yeah.
2006 when we started it.
Yeah,
And can
Meetup's
you
just
believe we're
new.
over 1,900 members now?
I can't believe. I know they were saying how it's the 20th anniversary of Meetup. I think it's the 20th or 25th
Wow.
anniversary. So it's been a really great community platform. So yeah, like I said, if you're looking to join up, if you're local and want to do well, actually, you don't even have to really be so much local all the time now anymore, because like you were saying, you stream those events, and they've like I said, I've been watching you guys on my TV when I'm home and I know I can't make it. So that's been really a nice feature to have on there.
And you've been the speaker at Photo Essay before. So,
Yeah, I've done a Zoom one too. Yeah, so it's
yep,
great.
that's
So
right.
also, yeah. Well, we have our first Tuesday coming up next week, and that'll be on the 7th, and it's going to be on that new software that we were talking about, ArtZip, and we're going to have the artist and founder of ArtZip, Wadi Armstrong, who's going to talk about this new software that's really going to change how easily accessible getting a digital high quality resolution image from your cell phone of your art. So this is amazing software. It's been almost, I want to say, a couple years probably in the making. So we'll talk to Wadi about that. So we hope we have your questions. If you want to catch this again, maybe you missed the beginning of this uh, Photo Tips Monthly, you can always watch it in a few minutes on Facebook or on YouTube and just hit the replay button and you can watch that. Um, let's see, what else do we have? I think James is now with us here. So I did make sure. James, do you have any announcements that you want to?
Um, so, just like what I said earlier about, we did add um, a feature to our Shopify integration, which allows people to create products directly from their virtual inventory. Virtual inventory is products that you create at FinerWorks, with various print combinations, and you can now copy those over or transfer those over to Shopify as as products on their Shopify store. The other thing I wanted to mention is we are going to be introducing a kind of a fun, not a huge product, but we're going to be introducing uh, this weekend or next week a actual peel and stick canvas, which is really cool. Where you, it's just it's a self adhesive uh, canvas, so you can actually it has a backer that you just peel and you can stick on any smooth surface uh, on, on a wall. If the wall is smooth enough, you could actually create a wall mural. If you don't have one of those walls,
Hmm.
that'll be a lot of pretty cool. And I think a lot of artists will come up with creative ideas to use that. Uh, it'll be sold relatively inexpensively as
Yeah,
well.
we've
So
had it's been a fun product to even test here.
yeah,
We've kind of,
we
like,
actually have used it for some we've some very large orders. Let's put it that way. Very large framed canvas orders where they were wanting the framed product to be very light. And so we printed it on those, and then just peeled and stuck them onto foam core for an instant mounted print, and then put it in a frame. And it came out really nice.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. So it's going to be something interesting to have, just to, again, have that variety to your art or to your photography that you can offer your clients, that diversifying your art that we keep talking about here. So we'll probably have something where we have a video that will introduce it here on our YouTube channel, and then we'll have it on our Facebook page and all of our social. And I'm sure James will include
I
that.
actually have some of that stuck on the, which I can't show you because
on your laptop.
Yeah, because I'm using my laptop right now. But stuck is kind of a laptop. What would you call it? Decoration?
Yeah, it's your new laptop skin.
Skin. Yeah, that's it. That's it's a canvas laptop skin, I guess you could call it. So yeah, you could make that if people could.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. You could also have that a laptop skin that has that canvassing. And I'm just going to show really quick, James, what you were talking about. If you go under your inventory files, as James was mentioning, and you'll notice that it's changed from the word settings here now to products.
Products, yeah.
And if you click on it, which is different than, like I said, going through here, this view right here, it's going to give you that Shopify product syncing now. And you can create your products there.
So it'll show the same, it'll give you the same items you have listed in your virtual inventory. Actually, I could probably show a better
view.
Yeah.
Let me stop sharing here.
Give me a second. Let me get to it.
What this is a really great time saver because you create, the way drop shipping works a lot is that you're going to create your catalog on your selling platform like Etsy or Shopify, and then you're going to create your product on your order fulfillment partner like FinerWorks here. And normally you're going to have to basically it's a little cumbersome. You do both products to kind of tie together. This will let you just do it in one place here on your order fulfillment and push it over to Shopify, so you don't have to.
How do I share my screen?
Again? Down at the bottom, right where you're muting. See that share?
Share screen. Okay.
And then just pick your tab. If you need to, hit Windows. That'll give you your tab.
Windows. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm seeing my screen. I guess
not yet. Let me see. It hasn't popped up here for me to add.
Oh, there we go. It seemed to be running very slow here.
Oh, okay. I'm waiting for it to just pop up here so I can add it to the stream.
Okay. Gotcha. There we go. Here we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so this would be an example of let's say your artwork and the image file, and then you come over here to virtual inventory products that I created. Now, since I have my store connected, I can see these same virtual inventory items here, and I can add the product, or I've already added this product, and all these virtual inventory items will show up as variants on your product page. So if you were to, and those that use Shopify will be familiar with the concept of variants. There are different versions of the product, so that people can select from, and you can set the name and the price and include it. And so once you do that, it's live automatically, or as long as you have the active status set up. But and then it'll provide all the information that we need when we later on import an order with that product. So that makes it just a little bit more seamless.
So it takes away that step too of having to go into your variants and
creating multiple,
uh,
creating
making sure you also tie the right SKU number and
yeah,
product numbers too over. So again, something just for a little more efficiency and a little more basically the assurance that you're tying the right products together.
because
So
we've
this
had
is gonna be
people send or had the wrong SKU for the wrong product, so they thought
yeah,
maybe they were sending us an order to uh, fulfill, like, say, a canvas print, and it was maybe a metal print.
yeah,
uh, and so and so when their customer gets it, they get the wrong product.
yeah.
Sure, or even the wrong image. I think in one
Now
case.
they still will have to move orders over, as you were saying, from the Shopify. So
Yeah.
like
So
this is your inventory building tool.
yeah. This is an inventory building tool. That doesn't save it as inventory in Shopify per se, but it is a virtual inventory product syncing tool. Um, but you'll still have to import your order and choose which orders you want to submit to FinerWorks. Our system does not automatically go out and retrieve orders. There's a
Yeah.
lot of problems with doing that we've not
Mhm.
been able to find
Too.
solutions for yet. We're researching that with the Shopify community, but yeah, you can have situations where you have products being fulfilled by two different companies
Yeah.
for
Well,
the shop owner.
yeah, so we'll have some. Oh, I love when your dog makes an appearance. I mean, that right there just
Yeah, he's
probably gets us about another set of viewership right there when he when he pops in. Um, so yeah, we thank everybody for joining. Michael Tidwell, thank you also for your comments and kind of engaging there with us and giving us your tips. And if you look on if you're watching on Facebook on the FinerWorks page and on YouTube, the links to the things that Jim was mentioning, including the presentation, are all within that links. On our YouTube channel, we'll also have them in the description as well. So with that, we thank you, and we'll hope to see everybody on Tuesday.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
guys.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you
Enjoyed
so
it.
much for doing this.
Of course. Of
All
course. Bye
right. You have
bye.
a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you.